Hey guys, it's Max. We just got in the brand new 2021 14-inch redesigned LG Gram. Wow, I gotta say, this thing is super lightweight, my first time holding this. And today we're gonna be comparing it to the M1 MacBook Pro. And we're not only gonna compare your usual CPU and graphics performance, we're gonna take a look at the speakers, the webcams and microphones. We're gonna pull out our thermal camera and see how hot and loud these two get, and test out real world performance and see which one of these is the better buy. Let's start out with the exteriors, and I have to say, there are a few things that I didn't really expect. First off, the LG Gram is quite a bit thicker than the MacBook Pro, especially at the back of it. You guys can see that right there. The second thing is, I mentioned that the LG is very lightweight, shockingly lightweight in the hands, but it feels quite cheap. It is very, I don't want to say flimsy, but kind of plasticky feeling at least. You look at the lid, look how much movement we have here, and everything just doesn't line up to the premium feel and fit and finish of the MacBook Pro. But of course, that is why it is so lightweight. I mean, there's a pretty drastic difference between these two. Now, I have to give LG props that they actually added ports for this redesign. How often do you see a manufacturer do that? Typically, they're getting rid of ports. So on the left-hand side, we have a full-size HDMI, we have two Thunderbolt 4 ports, and we have a headphone jack, which I prefer on the left-hand side. And then flipping around, we have two fast USBs, we have a micro SD card slot, and then we have this little lock. So one extra port compared to last year. Of course, our MacBook Pro only has two Thunderbolt ports on the left-hand side and only a headphone jack on the right-hand side. So the LG definitely wins as far as ports. Both of them do use USB Type-C to charge, so that's a great improvement for LG. I'm not a fan of the brick. That's this two-way setup. It's a lot more cables to deal with compared to having a little power brick with little prongs that flip out, and both are about 60 to 65 watts. Now, we do have a big difference in battery life, especially when you look at the rated battery life in real world, which I'll talk about in just a bit. But for now, let's go ahead and open these up. I love that the MacBook opens up with just one hand, as a nice evenly balanced hinge. Let's try the LG. And nice, okay, I was actually not expecting that since it's so lightweight. Good job, LG. Taking a look at the inside, I have to say that I really dig this modern, clean, white look. LG made the trackpad and keyboard bigger. It looks really nice, but it feels plasticky, even though it is a magnesium alloy, and it's just very flimsy. I'm not used to that in these modern, expensive notebooks. And you guys let me know down in the comments, what do you prefer? A lighter weight laptop or one that's a lot stronger and has a lot less flex? Now with that, let's go ahead and hit the power button in here. I'm gonna start booting it up. We do have a fingerprint reader built into this power button, just like on the MacBook Pro. And let's go ahead and test out the keyboard. This has been improved. And wow, okay, that feels really nice. It's a little bit springy, but it also feels soft. It definitely feels good. It gives you a good amount of feedback, and the keys are a decent size. Magic Keyboard actually gives you a little bit more feedback, but it takes a little bit less pressure to press down. Both are actually very good. Let's try out the little trackpad. All right, well, that's actually pretty easy to press, even at the top, and it is using a diving board design, so that's good. But look how much flex we get there in the chassis. I don't know, it just keeps bugging me. Now, the MacBook Pro's trackpad is bigger, and it is that magnetic trackpad that just works so well, and it feels so good. Definitely is a winner in terms of trackpad. All right, we're set up. I have a ton to say about this display, but first I wanna cover the speakers and finish off with the chassis, because the LG doesn't have any speaker grills like the MacBook Pro does for up-firing speakers, and it is so lightweight that I'm curious what kind of speakers they put into this machine. Now, being on a desk right now, this is the optimal scenario for down-firing speakers because they bounce up. So let's go ahead and compare these two, put on a pair of headphones if you have them, and let's take a listen. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. I have to say that I was surprised with the LG. It is quite a bit louder than I expected. A lot of Windows laptops are quieter, but it didn't really sound good. So technically, it peaked 1 decibel louder than the MacBook Pro, but it sounds very flat. If you're looking for good bass, rich mids, and nice highs, you're not really gonna get it. That's where the MacBook Pro really stands out. It has a nice, rich sound. But if you're somebody that's coming from a cheaper Windows laptop that's quieter and sounds worse, I think most people would be happy. It definitely gets the job done, but it doesn't sound great. And now let's compare the webcam and the microphone quality. This is the LG's 720p webcam, and it has dual front-facing microphones here. So go ahead and let me know how this looks and sounds. And this is the webcam and microphone quality of the M1 MacBook Pro. So let me know down in the comment section which one looked better to you and which one sounded better. And now let's talk about the displays. First off, LG, thank you for switching to a 16:10 aspect ratio, just like the MacBook Pro, just like so many Windows laptop manufacturers are doing. It is way better for a laptop of this size. Now they do have a 14-inch display, which is what we want in the Macs, and we have these nice slim bezels. I'd love to see slimmer bezels on the MacBook Pro. I'm not a fan of the matte gray plastic bezels. It reminds me of cheap $300 laptops, but at least they are slim. Now, as far as resolutions, LG just gives you one display. It's a 1920 by 1200 display, so we have 2.3 million pixels compared to 4.1 million pixels on the MacBook Pro. Now, I love this kind of 2.5, 2.6K resolution, but it looks like most Windows manufacturers is either getting a 1080p base screen or a 4K one, and the 4K kills your battery life. Now, as far as brightness, I went ahead and adjusted that top camera so the screens aren't blown out. I put them all up to the max, and I have to say that I'm impressed with LG because it is almost as bright as the MacBook Pro, which is at 500 nits. That is great for bright rooms and for outdoors. But with that said, if you're looking at darker content, we do have a pretty massive difference in reflectivity and contrast. The LG, the contrast is much lower, as you guys can probably see from that camera, and it is much more reflective. So I see my face almost like a mirror looking at this dark content, where the MacBook, even though it's a glossy screen, the reflections are minimized and we have nice, rich, deep blacks. And lastly, color accuracy. I read that the LG supports DCI-P3 now. Unfortunately, both with Edge and Chrome, it is not displaying the wider color gamut, whereas the MacBook Pro does. So as far as color accuracy, if you want to do photo editing, video editing, you care about colors, the MacBook Pro is definitely the better way to go. And now finally, let's get into performance. We're gonna start out with the SSDs. Both are 256GB models. Let's go ahead and hit start. All right, so there we go. Wow, that is a fast read speed on the LG. So as far as write, the MacBook Pro is leading by about 200 megabytes per second, but for read, the LG is about 800 megabytes per second faster. We're right at 3000. That is incredible. Now, another difference that we have here is that the LG Gram, it actually has an additional M.2 slot, so you can easily add in another SSD without having to remove the one that comes with it. So if you need extra storage, that is quick and easy to do. With the Mac, of course, you're stuck with what you buy. You have to upgrade it right out of the gate. And now let's compare our CPU performance. We're gonna start out with Geekbench 5. Now, both of these are 8GB models, and I have both linked down below. And I'm gonna actually do a RAM comparison between a Windows system and a Mac with that unified memory that gives you better optimization. So if you guys want to see that video, we're going to do a real world stress test with applications, with web browsing. It's going to be awesome. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button down below and enable those notifications. Now let's go ahead and get started. And our Tiger Lake Intel processor, it goes up to from 2.4 all the way up to 4.2 gigahertz, whereas our M1 Mac only hits 3.2. All right, we have our results and we have a massive difference. So as far as single core, the MacBook Pro is about 27% faster. It's a pretty big difference, but multi-core, it is about 60% faster than the LG. Now the LG, we did set it to the best performance, so it's not supposed to be limited. And you may have noticed that it is actually plugged in, whereas our MacBook Pro is unplugged on battery power. Now, what I'm really curious about, will LG maintain this performance or will it go down even more when we we unplug. So let's go ahead and unplug this and we're gonna run it again. All right, we are almost done with the test and bam, we have our results. And this is interesting. It looks like as far as single core score, we actually went up. No, actually, never mind. We went down by a little bit. It's very close though. A multi-score went up by a little bit. And I do have my settings set to maximum performance. So that is a very good thing. Even though the performance isn't as good as the MacBook Pro, it does keep its performance without tanking if you're on battery. Now, what I am very curious about is in Cinebench, when we're pushing these systems to the max, how will they perform? And another thing I have to mention is fan and heat. So far, with everything we've done, this thing has been absolutely silent. In most Windows laptops, when you open a program or you do something basic, the fans will kick up for a little bit, then they'll turn back down. So thermals so far look good, but let's go ahead and close this. Let's test out the graphics first, and then we'll do our thermal test. And as far as compute performance in Geekbench 5, you guys can see we have a pretty significant difference. We are looking at 14,700 compared to 21,600. It's about a 50% difference in performance. That is massive, and that is with the LG plugged in. Now, I also did run it unplugged, and the performance went down by just a little bit, basically insignificant. So once again, LG, I don't know if they're being conservative with their wattages or what, but the performance is quite a bit low. And now let's see how these compare in terms of gaming. We're using GFX Bench. This is scaled pretty well to real world gaming. And we have our scores here, and wow, we have a massive difference. 42 compared to 81.33. So basically twice the performance in terms of gaming. And as you guys may have seen in our previous videos, the MacBook Pros, when you start to play games using Metal, the optimization is really incredible. If you guys didn't see that, go ahead and check it out. We'll link it down below. All right, guys, and now let's go ahead and do our maximum performance test with Cinebench. It's gonna max out all the cores. And with that, I have my thermal camera right here. So we're gonna see how these performs in terms of temps, in terms of fan noise. So let's go ahead and get a baseline reading. This is our new LG gram, and it looks like 43 degrees is the hottest point right over there at the back. And let's take a look at our M1 MacBook. Wow, 29 degrees. You guys see the color difference between 28 now is the hottest point. That's a big difference in temperatures. Crazy. Now, I do have to commend the LG for being quiet. All these tests, the graphics tests we did, the CPU tests we did, it has been silent, which has been really nice for a Windows laptop, but this is gonna be the big test. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is our 10-minute test where it's gonna keep running for 10 minutes, making sure the system heats up when we get our full results. And I typically like to use Intel Power Gadget to see the CPU frequencies and the temperatures and the wattage, but it will not open for some reason. So we're just gonna have to go off of the performance and our thermal camera. All right, guys, it has been 5 minutes, and so far the LG is very quiet. It's a little bit louder than the MacBook Pro, but I literally have to get that close to hear it, which is wonderful if you want a quiet machine. Let's pull out the thermal camera and see what we get as far as temps. Looks like 48, 49, definitely quite hot and still in that one spot. Let's take a look at the M1. 36 is our hardest spot on the M1. So it's heating up, but running much cooler than the LG. All right, guys, we are almost done. And let's take another look at thermals. We have 47 on the LG, and the Mac is at 37. So we have a 10 degrees Celsius difference. That's a massive difference. And interestingly, the MacBook Pro is actually slightly louder now compared to the LG. I can't even hear it, which is really weird for a Windows laptop. But our MacBook Pro does run very cool as far as temperatures. I wonder if that means that the LG is gonna be really weak as far as performance if it's running that quiet. So our timers are done right now. We gotta finish up with the runs before we get our score. The Mac just finished. We have a score of 7,755. We're still waiting on the LG. The MacBook Pro is really cool right here. It's barely warm. The LG, wow, okay, that spot, that is burning hot. So this is gonna get interesting. We're almost done and we have our score. Let me know down in the comments, pause for a second, what you think the score that it got. I want to hear your guys' opinions because I was not expecting this. And I know I say that a lot, but I was really not expecting this. Go ahead and let us know. The score is 3,357. That is insane. I thought it would at least hit 5,000, but that is so low, and that is with the machine plugged in. If we unplug it, I don't think it's gonna get any better performance. Probably it's gonna go down by just a little bit. And I did the math, 2.3 times faster for the M1 Mac when we max out all the cores. That is just an incredible difference. Now, it was quiet. You know, I'll give them props for that, but at this point, I'd rather take much louder fans, even screaming fans, to get better performance than this. So let's go ahead and close Cinebench. And now let's get into some real world performance. I have Lightroom Classic opened up on both here. Let's go ahead and switch between these 42 megapixel images. Sit next. Right there, the Mac was a little faster. That one is about the same. Mac was a little faster. Mac was faster. So as you guys can see, so far, the Mac does switch faster, even though it's actually not optimized for Lightroom Classic just yet. And all of these raw images have a bunch of corrections. I'm gonna grab all 50, and we are going to do an export test. Both of these systems are completely maxed out. It looks like the LG's running at 2.55 about gigahertz. It's actually lower than I expected, so it's not actually kicking up anywhere near that 4.2, and our Mac is running at 3.2 gigahertz. The M1 Mac is almost done, and it's interesting that I can actually hear the fan right here from this distance, whereas the LG, I can't. So they are very conservative with their wattages and their fan speeds. All right, our LG is now finally finished. It's silent, but it ain't that fast. The MacBook Pro took 2 minutes and 39 seconds to export all 50 of these edited raw images to JPEG. The Dell took 4 minutes and 43 seconds. Yes, that is no joke, no lie. It is quite slow. It has an i5, it has the latest Intel processor, but it's just LG seems like they're very conservative. And with that, this program is optimized for Intel x86 processors, not for M1 Macs. That is close to twice as long when you need to be maxing out the CPU. And of course, graphics-wise, there's an even bigger difference in terms of graphics. So that is a big disappointment with the LG. Overall, if we take a look at the value and prices, this thing is $100 less than the Mac. You can toss in your own SSD. It has 256 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM. It's lightweight, has tons of ports, so it looks like it's a fairly good value. It's quiet, but then once you get into performance, that's where it starts to suffer. So you guys let me know down below what matters for you: a lower price, more flexibility, a lightweight system, a larger display, or the performance of the MacBook Pro, and which one would you choose? We want to hear your guys' opinions. Now, I wanted to compare this to the M1 MacBook Air. That's even lower and an even better value price-wise. And of course, that is fanless, so it's also gonna be quieter than this one, but also very quiet, maybe lower performance than the MacBook Pro. So if you guys wanna see that, you guys can click that circle above, and then we will investigate as far as performance for our full detailed review, so you guys can subscribe to see that. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next video.